Are we on?
Yes.
Good morning. Anna, are you here? I don't see you and I can't hear you.
There she is.
There you are.
No, can't hear
I
you.
think you're muted.
It wasn't letting me come on video or unmute for a second there, so hi.
Wow. Well, I'm glad it did. Welcome. We're missing a couple folks we thought would be here. That's not unexpected this time of the legislative session, I don't think. Jonathan, the executive director, is here, Josh Tardy, and Matt Lack, who is a coastal representative.
Yes,
You probably know that.
yeah, from the Mid-Coast area.
And I'm Commission Member Dennis Marble. And this is second and selfishly, I hope the final meeting of this work group to make recommendations that the full commission would take into consideration before it would go anywhere else. So Jonathan, would you sort of just bring us up to speed with where we are and what we're considering this morning?
Sure. Well, a lot of our focus has been on the 24-hour reports, which are filed by all of our different filing groups in the last 13 days before the election if they receive large contributions or make large expenditures. And we've also been looking at the independent expenditure reports, which are a different reporting requirement. And that's sort of highlighted in the first chart on the memo, what the differences are. So the independent expenditure reports are most often filed by PACs and parties. So the PACs and the parties have to worry about both sets of reports, but the candidates only need to worry about the 24-hour reports, which are on the right and the right-hand column. So just picking up where we left off at our last meeting, there seemed to be a general consensus with increasing the threshold in those last 13 days before the election for what is a what is a contribution that needs to be reported in 24 hours, or what is an expenditure that needs to be reported in 24 hours, which some of these have been around since the 1980s. John Fulton realized, and I confirm that. So that chart shows the current thresholds for when a 24-hour report is required, and then in the right-hand column, what was discussed at the right hand. So at the last meeting. So my first question for the group was, how do we feel? Are we okay with these higher thresholds or not?
And I'd love to hear from any and all.
I think the higher threshold for at least the House, probably the Senate, is a good idea. I think $1,000 is rather low at this stage in life. And this is down at the bottom, receiving or making a contribution. That within 24 hours, yes, you need to report 2,000 or 5,000.
So you're in support of what I'm looking at?
Yes.
Okay. Others?
I would support that as well, and just with the idea that I think if we can get consensus coming out of this working group, I would sort of adopt significantly Lisa's recommendations as well. I mean, given her absence,
Yeah.
she left that memo that I thought was helpful. And
Yeah.
if it could get us close to consensus, then I would certainly be part of that.
Okay. Anna?
I just have a clarifying question, I suppose, which is when I'm looking at that chart and I'm looking at the at receiving a contribution under the candidates, I may be missing something, but when I look at this, it doesn't seem like we have contribution limits. So how could a Senate candidate or a House candidate be receiving up to that much? Maybe I'm missing something, but.
Yeah, no, that's a very logical question, and it came up at our last meeting. It's only if the donor was the candidate themselves or their spouse or domestic, then those limits don't apply. But good, yeah.
Gotcha.
Excuse me just a sec. Someone else has joined us and I'm not sure who it is.
It's Leo.
Can't hear you.
Leo, Kenny, good
Good
morning.
morning.
Sorry I was late.
Yeah, you've gone undercover too, but okay,
I think I just turned my camera on. Am I still not up there?
you're here.
All right.
Yes, you're here. We've just started, Leo. So far, we've had a question about this and we've had a couple of nods to supporting so far what we've looked at on this. Do you have the email or the memo to work with?
I do. Yeah, I got that yesterday. Yep.
Okay.
I think I'm in line.
Okay. So can you pick it up from here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to know Anna wasn't here for our last meeting, so.
With that clarification, the increases make sense, and generally, I think this approach is making sense. Certainly in the conversations that I've had with my colleagues, a lot of the reasons for these laws that, came out of things like matching fund system and where there was a need to have that very fast disclosure at the last days of the campaign. And with that, sort of the reason for some of this is no longer reality. So it certainly makes sense to make the adjustments. And I think that, yeah, the framework that's been proposed makes sense to me.
Okay.
Okay, great. So why don't we turn to page 2? And while I'm thinking of it, since Josh mentioned Lisa's comments, we do have some paper copies here of Lisa's comments. Maybe we'll pass that around within the room. Because she expressed some preferences by email on Tuesday when she realized she couldn't make it today.
Anna and Leo, did you see that email from her?
I
Yes, I think it was yesterday or Tuesday, late.
We also can summarize it. I mean, it's
Okay,
Yeah, Lisa Prozinski.
yeah.
yes.
I have that. Yeah.
So the next topic was how quickly should 24-hour reports be filed? And again, these are the ones that all of our different filers file in the last 13 days before the election, if they receive larger contributions or make larger expenditures. And so at our last meeting, there's sort of some sense we ought to give our filers a little bit more breathing room to file these accelerated reports. And we started out talking about maybe moving from 24 hours to 2 calendar days. And then I think it might have been Representative Himes who was saying as a candidate, he finds it helpful to know in the last week what the other side is doing. So his proposal was maybe stick with 24 hours beginning on the 6th day before the election. So, and that's something that Lisa signed on to in her email. So I just wanted to see how the group felt about that.
Yeah, so as I indicated, if I may be, I would personally be in favor of moving it to 48 hours or 2 days, but to get consensus and recognizing Representative Himes' issue, I think I can support a 24-hour reporting period in the final 6 days.
Anna or Ann or Leo? I see heads nodding, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable compromise. There's certainly, the value of rapid disclosure is real, but we can we can adjust to what is going to be more feasible for candidates for sure. And like I said, a lot of these came from the idea of matching funds for clean elections where there would be an extra reason for the rapid disclosure, and without that, 2 days seems sufficient for that first period. And excuse me, I'm dealing with a cold, so I'm a little froggy and possibly also not at my sharpest.
You're doing very well, thank you. Leo?
Yeah, I'd lean more towards 48 hours, I guess, and just taking a step back to say this is so you can track what your opponent's doing doesn't really feel like justification to me, but I kind of feel like I look at it like everything probably differently. But I just, that seems like a strange, you know, on its face, if it seems like a strange thing to require it 24 hours just so I can know what my competitor is doing. Doesn't, you know, you do what you do and your competitor and your person you're running against does what they do in my mind. So I don't, but either way is fine. I think, I could certainly live with the 24, but, that justification doesn't resonate a lot with me, to be candid.
Right now, just to reflect the basics, you and Josh are in agreement. You could both live with 24 the last 6 days, but you'd prefer 48. And,
I'd like the 24 hours,
okay, that was pretty clear.
yes.
Well, I actually feel the same as Leo for exactly the reasons that Leo articulated.
Right.
But Josh is right that, you know, we consent, you know, it's good to get a consensus, so. I favor the 2 days because I feel like it would be simpler across the board if these things were for the entire 13-day period. It was a 2-day report. I just think that's simpler for our filers to understand. Rather than it's like a 2-day report and then a 1-day report and what do we call it? And, you know, but that's sort of my personal perspective as the administrator, you know, trying to teach people what these are all about, you know, so. I can go either way.
Just, yeah. And I just feel like to put on the record for the, I think the reason for the benefits of the 1-day report leading right up into the election, I keep thinking about a scenario where, let's say there's a big, you know, last minute push of tons of text messages that go out and people want to know where it's coming from and what was happening with that. It's, you know, creating a stir in the community and the media wants to cover it. You know, these are things that when we talk about what's the public benefit of it, it really is in that like quick moving end of campaign period where, you know, the delay of a day makes a difference to the news story and potentially makes a difference to the campaign. I think these are marginal cases. So again, I'm not hugely bothered about whether it's 24 or 48, but I'm just going to say I do think that there is a public interest reason for the disclosure as well as for the benefit of the candidates.
For what it's worth, in the work I've done on the commission in terms of compliance, it's been my general experience that candidates have had trouble or their teams have had trouble complying around things like 24 hours. And I honestly can't think of an example, even anecdotally, where it was very clear that one side or the other made a big move in that if it hadn't been disclosed in 24 hours, you know, made a difference in terms of the perception of a campaign. So I would, part of me wants to just keep it simple, and I'm thinking of the staff here as well as the candidates, and keep it 48 hours. But that said, I'll sit back and hear where we land, because we seem a little divided on it, but not.
I could go to 48 hours too. I'm not hard and fast about 24. It just seemed like an appropriate time toward the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
But the logistics of it, looks like it should be more along the lines of 48 hours.
Okay.
And rather than 2 business days?
Ah,
That's the question. Is it business days or is it 48 hours?
Well, we were talking about basically 48 hours. We were talking about 2 calendar days, which I guess if the question is,
Oh, okay, so
yeah, like 5 PM on the second calendar day after you make the expenditure is how I would, well, actually, it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 PM.
right, but does that mean,
So
weekends are included?
weekends are included.
Okay, then that's fine.
Yes.
I think I would, if I had a magic 8 ball, I imagine we're still going to get complaints from, or not complaints, requests for waivers from people, because people are still going to, and Josh has alluded to this previously, they're gonna wait till the last minute because we're creatures of habit. So will it make a change ultimately, you know, that helps the commission and helps filers? I don't know. So in my opinion, you know, 24, 48, I think we could still be stuck with the same
we may.
Probably.
in the last 6 days, it will be a Friday afternoon procurement. And so in my view, it will be either a Saturday reporting deadline or a Sunday evening reporting deadline. It's, that mass text, the last purchase of a significant Facebook procurement. It's that Friday afternoon before the
Mhm.
D-Day
Before Tuesday election.
Right.
Mhm.
My only concern, again, on simplicity and consistency, I would prefer the phrase 48 hours if we were gonna go this way rather than the business days.
Right, yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Everyone can live with 48 hours? Knowing not gonna be a perfect solution. Okay. Jonathan, picking up on 3.
Yeah, so now we're moving to the independent expenditure report. And these are usually filed by PACs and parties. These are when these outside groups spend money on some kind of communication to the voters, like a mailing or an advertisement or robocalls. And the current threshold for when the PAC or the party has to file the report is if they spend more than $250 per candidate. And this came out of my conversation with Representative Himes. He said that seems awfully low. Maybe we should think about 500 or 1,000. And in her comments, Lisa said she'd be in favor of moving that up to 500. 1,000 may be appropriate, but that feels like a large jump and may allow for a substantial amount to be spent without an IE report, particularly in a House district, which I understand what you get. That has some logic to it. So I don't know what the group thinks.
Well, for background, for a long time, originally when the IE came about, when we had matching funds and all that, it was $100. And then that was changed in the early 2000s. And forgive me, I'm forgetting the data. I know we talked about it a little.
Oh, yeah.
And then it jumped to 250. So it's been 250 for quite a while now.
Mhm.
And with the cost of campaigns and everything, it does make sense to have some sort of increase.
Okay.
Where that falls, I'll leave to people who spend more money on campaigns and
Yeah.
what you see as a candidate.
Mhm. I think $250 is too low also.
Okay.
I'm not sure anything above $1,000 for a House or Senate race. Maybe a Senate race, that maybe House 500, Senate 1,000, but more than 250.
I'd be in favor of 1,000, and I'm thinking about the folks that are doing the work and would be doing the reporting. I would like to see it stay the same between a House and a Senate race, but it's just my thoughts.
Leo, Anna?
I would be in favor of the 1,000, but I think I can see 1,000 for Senate and 500 per House. Cause that, for whatever, obviously there is a smaller 10,000. How many's in a House? I don't know, 10,000 versus 20, 30,000. So that tiered approach, if that's not convoluted, works. I don't think you get a whole lot for $1,000 either. So I think 1,000 across the board is also acceptable.
Thinking about what actually makes it clearer, and this is something I'm curious about everyone's ideas on, but so many things are tiered that whether having some things be tiered and other things not be tiered might in fact be more confusing than have it be standard that you expect something to be different for the House versus the Senate. I'm curious if you think that.
That kind of thinking makes sense to me. I don't know what it does to commission staff or candidates, though.
I'm sorry, say again, Anna?
If I hear Anna right, she's saying there's logic behind the idea of 500 for House and 1,000 for Senate. Is that correct, Anna?
Yeah, that's correct. I was saying that since we're used to House and Senate having different limits and thresholds and amounts for all of the different across each of the different issues, that having it be tiered here might in fact be more consistent than having it be one thing across both here when it's tiered in other places. I'm really, but that's an open question for those who work across both spaces, whether it would feel, if the goal here is partly to have consistency across as many of the different roles as possible.
I think there is a difference between a House campaign and a Senate campaign.
Mhm.
And it is appreciably higher in a Senate campaign. Just by dint of the having so many more towns and so forth. So I think that if it's not if it's not a burden on staff, then I think that the tiered 500, 1,000 might be a way to go.
It's
I
not a burden.
concur.
Sorry, you agree, Leo? Sorry.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a burden on us. I think it's it's like, I agree with Anna, consistency is good, and so it's like, which consistency do we? It's
Yeah.
easier for the filers. Is it easier
What's the
to,
contribution limit for a house, for a traditionally funded House candidate?
is it 475 or was that last?
That was
Year.
last.
So I think it might be 500.
All right, and what about for state senate? Is it the same?
Same, yeah. So I mean, we can go either way.
So where are we at?
I think it's a little easier for the Paxton parties if you had the same thing across the board, but I think they can adjust to anything. I mean, if we do, and if we did do tiers, then we'd also have to suggest something for governor, which we could either come up with now, or you could let staff take a stab at this after the meeting, whatever you want to do.
I kind of like, I agree with the logic and the tiering, but there's an Occam's razor thing to some of this too, where simple helps everybody. I'll just throw that out there. I think it comes back to what Josh said initially. He was in favor of 1,000 for both. He's multitasking.
I know.
I'm just trying to find out the contribution limit.
Right.
I could go with $1,000 also.
I'm totally fine with that. I do agree with the Anna's logic but I don't think it's probably not gonna mess anybody up to the detriment, I guess. So, I mean, I think simple's good. Kiss, right? Keep it simple.
Anna, can you live with this? We're overriding your
Yes.
logic. Okay.
I'm open to that. I can live with it. I mean, that was really my question is which of these two routes feels simpler? And that is, so I'll go with the majority. Thanks.
Thank
We're
you.
here to defy logic.
The answer to Josh's question about what the contribution limits will be in 2026, it's 500 for legislative races.
And they're the same. For-
Correct,
for
yes, House and Senate, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thanks,
Mr.
Mark.
Mr. Chair, it might be helpful for us to, if folks have any feelings about the gubernatorial limits for IEs, because, we're getting ready to get into the 2026 cycle and
Yeah.
we could have to solve at one time. If
Well-
anybody has any opinions.
Well, while you stepped out,
Oh, sorry.
we decided to go in the other direction and just stick with $1,000 per candidate.
Oh,
across
even
the-
for governor,
I
okay.
think so. I think that's right. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah. All right, then the last remaining question is question 4, which is, there are a couple of alternatives. Should we do the 2 calendar, the 48 hours in the last 60 days before the fact, this is the question of when does the independent expenditure report have to be filed in relation to when the PAC or the party makes the expenditure. So do we want a shorter time period in the last 6 days, or should we make it the same as the earlier deadline and just do 48 hours for that and those entire 2 weeks leading up to the election?
Maybe I'm confused. I thought we talked about this. Did we not?
Well, we do, I mean, my personal feeling is it should be the same as it's just simplest for our filers. if we make it the same as the 24-hour report, we just move, this is how I feel,
So
but
everything would be 48.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, sorry, this is for independent, not,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
okay, sorry, I missed that distinction.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Okay,
Other voices?
No, I think that's fine. Keeping the 48 hours rather than people questioning which is which.
Okay,
all right, that was it. And
so
there are
back,
other,
back to what I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think everyone was here, I just wanted to make sure we've got a good work group here. That we didn't inadvertently miss one other thing that we should have talked about. Yeah, I know. I appreciate the smiling. But did anyone have any other thoughts driving here or last week or? You know, if we're changing this one, why didn't we look at this?
Well, I had a thought last week driving there. Actually, driving home, I had a thought, but never mind. I won't share it. I think it was where is everybody? Where was everybody? But that's all right. Never mind.
Sorry about that.
These are these accelerated reports are what. They're the biggest
Yep,
problem for commission staff and commissioners.
yep,
During the season. And if it reduces the request for investigation by 3, it's made some progress.
yes. I agree. All right,
okay,
well, thank you, everybody. If you're going over to the State House, good luck.
Yeah.
Otherwise, enjoy the heat.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate the invite.
Bye.
thank you, Leo.
All right, bye.
Those are stunning.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law